Hi, guys. Welcome
All
back. I
right.
am back with another story. Today, I'm going to be talking to Airreia Pierce, and she's going to share her story with us. But before we begin her story, let's give them a little bit of background. So, Airreia, do you mind talking just a little bit about your fertility story or your journey?
Sure. Just to kind of fill you. So my husband and I, we were married about 5 or 6 years prior to when we were both told that we had fertility issues. So I found out first. I found out that I was diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome, which really is a hormone imbalance in your body. And then on top of that, I was told that I was pre-diabetic, as well as not having any progesterone. So I had a level of a zero progesterone level. And so, given that information, because they told me your progesterone level had to be a certain amount anyway to get pregnant and even to sustain the pregnancy. So, having a level zero, they really told me that, given everything, that it pretty much my chances were slim. And my first recommendation was just to lose weight and I start Clomid treatments. So that's what I did. I started working on losing weight. I lost 30 pounds, and that became just my goal, not just having a baby, but just overall health. Um, I did that, and while I was doing that, I also took the Clomid treatment. With Clomid, I don't know if many of you are familiar, but especially with women, you're only allowed 5 cycles of Clomid, because they said if you continue to take it, it can actually do reverse effects to your reproductive system. So they only recommend I do 5 or 6 cycles. So I exhausted my amount of cycles that I could take, and at that point, I still hadn't become pregnant. So they recommended that we get my husband tested. So I was tested twice, and he also the results came back. He had male fertility, so he had low motility and low mobility. So he only had 3% of his sperm count was okay. And so with that, we were recommended that we go see a fertility specialist, because that was the recommendation. They suggested, that for us, they said that was probably the only way that we could even have a possibility at trying. Even when we met the fertility specialist, I was very, very dissatisfied with my experience. I would, and I'm going to say the name of the fertility clinic here, but I was very dissatisfied with them, and it was very unprofessional. When I met with the doctor, because my husband had to work that day, so I went by myself, but he was aware of all of our both of our um, information, because he had all of that on his computer. And so he said, given both of our conditions, he really doubted even getting in vitro, that would possibly work. He said we could try, but that was going to be $15,000, and that was going to be out of pocket. That was really for both of us. That was not not doable. Even though we both had insurance, that was just something we couldn't do. And so, why try to, and I know that it definitely works for some people, but for us, we just decided not to. We said that we would trust God, and that was where our faith was in. We said, if God desires to be parents, it's gonna happen. And so that's what started our faith journey. Really, we continued to stand on the Word of God, and we trusted and believed that we were going to be parents one day. And we actually started working on our baby room. We started even before we found out that we were going to even have any possibility of having children. It was to encourage our faith. So we started buying baby furniture and, working on the nursery, and, just to encourage us that it was a possibility, that God's promises are yes and amen. And then about maybe, see, this in 2016, we found out in July the 10th, 2016, that we were pregnant. And so, we had our first miracle child, and fast forward, we got pregnant again in 2018, but we miscarried, and definitely was devastated. But then a year later, found out we were pregnant again, and this is our miracle baby.
Oh, wow. That's such an inspiring story. Just to hear that they told you there was no way that you guys would get pregnant, but you got pregnant not once, not twice, but 3 times on your own. So that is amazing, and we thank God for that. Now, let's transition just a little bit. So you get pregnant, and you are, of course, seeing your doctors and all of this because we have to, or we should. Some people don't. But
Yes,
while you were seeing your doctors, did you ever feel uncomfortable?
I did. There were a couple of times I did feel uncomfortable. One of those times being, okay, so with my daughter, and I'll just put this out here, like, and I won't share specific names or anything, but at my particular practice that I go to, so we see a lot of different people. You don't have just one doctor. And so where I go, like, there are phenomenal doctors, and I continue to go there because I choose to go see the one I'm most comfortable with. But so there are phenomenal doctors, but then there are some that I would say are not as caring or don't have bedside manners, I would. And so I've also experienced some of those because you don't never know when you're gonna get who. But of course, like after you give birth, you can continue to see that same doctor. So that's what goes into to see the same person. But my experiences were, especially when I had, so like during the prenatal care, that was okay with my first child. But it wasn't until actually I had my baby, I was, going through the process. I was in the hospital. I already had been told that I had to be induced. And so, because I had gestational diabetes, but there was no other medical reason why I needed to be induced. But I did go through induction and everything. And so while I was there, um, for whatever reason, like I was in the middle getting ready to have the baby, and I had crowned, and the doctor left. She just left in the middle of everything. And to this day, I was not given a real reason why she left. She left. And then I was told by the nurses, I was told that I said, you're just going to have to hold it because the other doctor had not come. So the other doctor had not come. And so it was just that moment. And I was, you're already especially as a Black female, giving birth is very scary for you. And so, on top of that, throw in your doctor's leaving, in that moment, that's not what you want to hear. And so I just remember in that moment, I did what was best for my child and my health. I was being told to hold the baby, like hold it there. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm gonna push. And so that's what I did. And so because really, if you hold it, it's actually can cause more complications for the baby and you. So it's not in your best interest to hold it, especially if you've gotten that far along.
Wow. So you are sitting here crowning, and the doctor tells you, well, the doctor doesn't say anything. The doctor just leaves. And the nurse says, okay, we need to hold it.
Yes. And
How
you're
are you
told,
supposed to hold the baby? The baby's coming out. But at this point, they told you to hold it. Okay.
to hold it
Okay.
because the other doctor had not come.
Oh, okay. So they were waiting on this specific doctor to birth your baby. So it was up to you to hold your baby in while you wait. Um, okay. So now
Yes,
after this
because I was
happened,
told
after you push, after they've told you not to push, how did the nurses kind of react to you going ahead and just pushing the baby out?
I don't remember like any facial expressions or anything because I at that moment I didn't care because I'd been told that the nurses said they couldn't deliver the baby, and I did have a doula, and but I know as far as a doula is not supposed to catch it, but I just believe somebody's gonna catch my baby. So I said, I'm just gonna push, and because I'm not gonna hold on, I'm not gonna do that what they're asking me to do. And so thankfully I did push, and thankfully just when I pushed, the doctor came in at that time, and so the doctor did catch the baby because I said I was gonna push anyway. So the doctor in the other doctor did come in to catch the baby. Um, but at that point, when I did that, I actually I post hemorrhage. So I lost blood that I had to get I had to get a blood transfusion after that happened.
Oh. So you had to get a blood transfusion after that happened. Okay. And how was your care as far as like your postpartum? So after you get this blood transfusion, what happens next?
So after this, my doctor, she talks me into, because I was kind of skeptical anyway getting a blood transfusion. Just I never got one before, so I would just kind of think like, will my blood take to somebody else's blood, and just to kind of process and what I'm getting ready to go through, on top of all the emotions you feel after having a baby. So I find that out. And then on top of that, my blood pressure is high. Um, and I just want to put this out there. I never had I never had preeclampsia. So I never had that during my pregnancy. My blood pressure was always normal. But for some reason my blood pressure started raising after I had baby. And so, and I was during the hospital. So I got my transfusion, and my blood pressure was still high. They actually let me go home. My blood pressure was high, and they said that they would just monitor me, but I could go home. So I went home, and you just know when something's not right with your body. And I remember I was home, and at the same time, during that week, so it was a crazy week because my husband was hospitalized too during that same week because he had a seizure. And no seizure, because he does have seizures, but during that time he actually got cellulitis. So he was actually hospitalized for the cellulitis while I was in the hospital too. And so when I was released home, my sister-in-law, mother-in-law was here with me. So I wasn't with him, so experiencing emotions of husband being in the hospital. So it was just a lot going on. But I knew something went right with my body. I started feeling chills, and I had these headaches that these headaches would not go away. And I already knew my blood pressure, from leaving, but they had told me I could go back home, it was fine. And and I hadn't, they told me I had normal swelling, it would go away on its own. So I went back home, but I just knew something wasn't right. And I told my sister-in-law, take me to the hospital. So she took me to the hospital, and that's when they found out that I had preeclampsia. So they told me that I was going to have to hospitalize again for another week because they had to give me magnesium. And somebody was going to have to stay with me because I was breastfeeding. So they didn't want me to possibly drop the baby. So I had to have somebody to stay with me during that time.
Wow. So you ended up having postpartum preeclampsia, which is something that a lot of women of color do sometimes end up having, and it's not really talked about. as much as having preeclampsia in pregnancy. And oftentimes, just like you said, they will send the person home saying that they're going to monitor it, and your blood pressure can shoot up, and it can be an ongoing kind of thing. I know someone who dealt with it personally, and it took months for her to be able to regulate her blood pressure. So they sent you home, and then you took the magnesium. Did everything kind of balance itself out after you were able to take the magnesium?
It did sort of balance itself out. After I took magnesium, I was in the hospital like so I was in there a week, and it kind of bounced out. They wanted to make sure that my blood pressure was, once it went down, they wanted to make sure now it was stable. So that's what they did, and even when I left, they continued to keep me like on a low dose blood pressure medicine even after I was ready to be released and everything. So I was pretty much good with after that. And then just more recently, the birth of my son. So my pregnancy, of course, they know my history. They've been monitoring, like, because I had post hemorrhage, because I had post preeclampsia. I was put on a baby aspirin. And of course, they told me that to take that as a prevention method to get possibly getting it. So I did take that early in my pregnancy. I didn't have gestational diabetes at first, because they tested me up to as early as 14 weeks. So I didn't have it that early, but it did develop onset probably about 29 weeks. So I did end up getting it again. And then I noticed this time, in other meetings that we've had, you mentioned about sometimes in settings where you have African Americans who have become kind of institutionalized too, told by another Black doctor that I couldn't have a doula. And so I was very surprised with that, because I had a doula with him as well. And I remember I was telling her, and it was kind of like they kind of shun, like that particular doctor, she shunned doulas or looked down on having one or having a birth plan. But anyway, I still advocate it because it's, because sometimes as a patient, you can feel like you don't have a voice. And so, sometimes you might, if you don't know what to say or what your rights are, you might just kind of go along with it. But I know, like, going back, talking to my doula, she just continued to encourage me, remind me, this is your body, this is your birth. You can speak up. You don't have to see that particular doctor again. You can go see another person if it doesn't respect your choices. So that's just what I did. So I made sure I made sure to go see somebody else, and they did accept my birth plan and everything. So when I got in, of course, I have to be induced again. But the thing about it with induction, you don't know exactly like when the baby's coming, and that's the thing, like the baby, like you can try to start the induction process, but the baby's gonna come when the baby's ready, and your body knows what to do too, no matter how much kind of intervention you try to do. And so I was trying to do the basics anyway. So going in this time, I knew I didn't want a volleyball, because I experienced that before. I didn't like the volleyball, and so I was able to speak up about that. And then I was actually going to have the experience where one of the nurse staff, she did not look at my birth plan, and she did not even look at the records to see that I was not an actual diabetic. So they were going to get ready to hook me up on a drip, like a constant drip of IV with insulin that continues to run. I was not a diabetic, so I didn't need it. I didn't need that. So what happened was my doula was in the room with me, and so she said, "Did you really look in her charts? Did you did you look at her birth plan? She's not a diabetic. She just has gestational, so she doesn't need that continuous drop, and running through her eyes. They found that out and they realized, so they, apologized. They, almost made a mistake of giving me that. So that went well. I'm definitely grateful, that was caught ahead of time. Other than that, I had a pretty good experience, with the exception of one doctor, and I completely, she was a Caucasian. She was a Caucasian lady, and she's actress that I go to. And I knew about her because when I had my miscarriage, she was so unprofessional. And I just remembered her, and I was like, I don't never want to be her patient. I just don't want to go to her because when I had my miscarriage, she treated me like I'm just another number. Carriages, they happen to women, just get over it and try again later. You have PCOS, that's common, just try again, keep trying. So but it was like with no sympathy, I was not met with any comfort or anything. So I just knew that I didn't want to have her, I didn't want her as my doctor. But again, when you are being induced, you don't know when the baby's coming and what shift, because with everybody, changing shifts and everything, going day to day, it changed. And so I was already in the hospital for 2 days with my induction, and still hadn't fully dilated or anything. So he hadn't come yet. And that particular doctor had come in, and I was just like, I already had negative feelings about her. And so the way that she responded was, she said that, "Oh, you're going to have this baby on my shift." And I just didn't, I didn't like her approach was, and so even trying to rush a baby, you can't rush the baby anyway. And the previous at night, she wanted to break my water and get started at night and everything to the next day. And the doctor before her had just said, it's okay that I get some rest and we start the next day, to start the process over. But she was just very adamant about, no, I was going to have it on her shift. And she had no bedside manners at all. And even when she went to go check me, she went in my the anal hole. And I'm just like, as a doctor, you should know what to do. I mean, and then it was very unprofessional. And my doula had left that particular time, because your doula will stay with you for a certain amount of time. If you haven't, you're not dilated yet, don't go back home until you're ready and stuff. So I was just talking to my doula on the phone at that point, and she was just encouraging me to advocate for myself, because this good doctor wanted me to have the baby. And then she started invoking fear, because she was saying, and she knew that I had a miscarriage before. So she was trying to invoke fear that, I might have a stillbirth baby. And who wants to, I mean, I know that it happens, but who wants to even imagine that at that moment? Because she was saying, if I didn't let her go ahead and break my water then and let her have the baby on her shift, I could possibly not even have a baby. I might have a stillbirth, or she said I might post hemorrhage. So I'm just thinking about all those things that could have happened, and I remember, trying to, just try to calm down, but it was very hard emotionally, just dealing with that. And I remember talking to my husband as well as my doula on the phone, and they were just trying to encourage me to speak up. They reminded me, remember what the former doctor before her, what she said on the last shift. They said it was okay for you to rest, and that you can start the process, again tomorrow, because I was given, I can't think of the Pitocin. So with the Pitocin, I had went all the way up to I think level 18. I went up to level 18, and I still had not dilated. So they were going to have to start the whole process over again. So again, the previous doctor had said just wait till the next morning. And so that's what I was going to do before this doctor came that I didn't particularly like. And then, for her to throw her coworker under the bus, which I was told that she said that she's been doing this for years. She has over 30 years of experience. And the other doctor who I could wait, she was like, oh, well, she's just new. She don't know what she's talking about. I just thought that was very unprofessional. And so, but long story short, I ended up, not having to deliver on her shift. And I was grateful because I didn't want her to deliver my baby anyway. And the doctor, who was an African American lady, who ended up delivering our baby. And I was so grateful because she had so much care, and you knew that she cared about you and was very concerned. And she was the same doctor who, when I had a miscarriage, like after having the negative experience, when I went for my follow-up, she was there to pray with me. And during when I had my miscarriage, and so it became like a circle because she became the one that delivered him. And so she remembered that she had spoke words of encouragement and told me that one day I was going to have another baby. And so here she is now, she's delivering. So that's a little.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing that, this woman comes to you and tries to use what happened to you in losing your baby to then scare you into letting her induce you. And, if you had gone through with what she was trying to do, there's no telling what could have happened to you or to your baby, knowing that you had already had the partum hemorrhage before and all of these things. And she was just trying to check some boxes and hurry up and get you out of there. So as we can see, that could have gone, a different way, but thank God it didn't. And you had people encouraging you to speak up for yourself. And just the other thing, the fact that you said she went to check you and she went into the wrong hole. And then she had the nerve to say that she had 30 years of experience. How many women has she done something? This is crazy to me. Wow.
Yeah, that was definitely crazy. But and then like even this time around, so I didn't develop the post preeclampsia, but because they did want to keep an eye on me this time, but I was just personally, just more anxious and definitely wanting to make sure I didn't have it, because I remember how I felt. My blood pressure did continue to rise again, but it didn't develop until the post preeclampsia. And so and even when I started feeling, as soon as I started feeling chills again, I did ask my husband to take me to the hospital. But I'm just grateful it didn't end up into the post preeclampsia this time.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I know that your baby is getting fussy, and I want you to take care of him because he comes first. So thank you so much for sharing your story and for always speaking out and being so vocal. And please continue to advocate for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.